I've got a very special piece of jewellery in front of me here, and it is a brooch that we believe was created on the orders of Queen Victoria as a gift to commemorate the engagement of her daughter, Princess Louise, to John Campbell, Marquis of Lorne. On the back, we can see the date and the location of the princess's engagement, which was the 3rd of October 1870 at Dew Lock in Scotland. And we can see on the front here that the brooch is made of granite, and we believe that this was a reference to Balmoral, the royal family's Scottish estate, near to which the princess got engaged. Princess Louise was the 6th child of Queen Victoria and Prince Albert, and their 4th daughter, and she was born on the 18th of March 1848 at Buckingham Palace. She was described by Lady Augusta Bruce, one of the Queen's ladies, as being the delicious baby, and she was believed to be a very sweet and beautiful creature. Princess Louise was baptised a couple of months after her birth in the private chapel at Buckingham Palace, and she was raised surrounded by all of the trappings of luxury, but also in a rather strict fashion, in keeping with the way in which her royal siblings had also been raised. Louise was from the start a very artistic child, but given her status, this wasn't believed to be a suitable career option for a royal child. Nevertheless, Louise was fortunate enough later on to be able to attend art school, attending what is now the Royal College for Art, where she was tutored by Mary Thornycroft. Following the premature death of Princess Louise's father, Prince Albert, Louise quickly became bored, and it was rumoured that she had become embroiled in several love affairs. Louise fell in love with John Campbell, Marquis of Lorne, and the two became engaged in Scotland in October 1870. Queen Victoria wrote about the engagement in her journal, and she was very much in favour of the match. She liked the idea of her daughter marrying into the aristocracy rather than into one of the other royal European houses, as she liked the idea of bringing new blood into the royal family. However, Princess Louise's brother, the Prince of Wales, was at first very much opposed to the match. Nevertheless, plans for the wedding soon gathered pace. Princess Louise and John Campbell were married on the 21st of March 1871 at St George's Chapel, Windsor, and the wedding was a momentous occasion for several reasons, one of which was that Louise was the first member of the royal family to marry a commoner since 1515, when Henry VIII's younger sister, Mary Tudor, had married Charles Brandon. Louise was escorted into the chapel by her mother and her 2 elder brothers, and she wore a beautiful wedding dress with a veil made of Honiton lace that she had designed herself. In 1878, John Campbell was appointed Governor-General of Canada, and Louise joined her husband on their Canadian trip. However, it was to be a very unhappy time for her, particularly after she and her husband were involved in a sleighing accident in 1880, during the course of which the sleigh in which they were travelling was overturned. Louise herself was knocked unconscious, and she suffered from concussion and a tear in her ear when her earring got caught on the sleigh. She returned to England in 1881, and her husband joined her 2 years later. However, by this time their marriage was incredibly unhappy and plagued by rumours of John Campbell's homosexuality, rumours which to this day have been unsubstantiated. Nevertheless, he and Louise were childless. There was further sad news to come for Louise and John, because in 1911, John fell ill. Despite the fact that their marriage had been unhappy, Louise nursed her husband devotedly until his death in 1914. Following his death, Louise suffered from a breakdown exacerbated by the loneliness she felt as a result of John's loss. By this time, Louise was living in an apartment in Kensington Palace, as was her younger sister, Princess Beatrice. In fact, in later years, the late Queen Elizabeth II and her sister Princess Margaret would describe Kensington as being the auntie palace for this reason. Louise was to outlive her husband by many years, and she died on the 3rd of December 1939 at the age of 91. Her body was cremated, and initially she was buried in the royal vault of St George's Chapel, Windsor, the very place where she and John Campbell had said their marriage vows. However, her remains were later moved to the royal burial ground at Frogmore, and this was very much in keeping with her wishes, whereby if she died in Scotland, she hoped to be buried next to her husband. If she were to die in England, then she had given orders that she was to be buried near to her parents at Frogmore. There are still many traces of Princess Louise still to be found, including the sculpture of her mother, Queen Victoria, that was sculpted by Louise outside Kensington Palace. And, of course, we still have this beautiful brooch commemorating Louise's engagement to John Campbell in 1870.